In a world where royal protocol dictates every handshake, bow, and conversation, where centuries-old traditions govern every public appearance, one small hand holding a plastic crown would break through all barriers and create a moment that would touch millions of hearts around the globe. This is not a story about grand palaces or state ceremonies. This is about the power of innocence, the magic of childhood wonder, and how a simple gesture from a little girl in Blackpool would remind the world that sometimes the most meaningful gifts come wrapped not in expensive paper, but in pure, unfiltered love. What happened on that ordinary Tuesday morning would become extraordinary, proving that even future kings can be moved to tears by the genuine kindness of a child who saw not a royal title, but simply a kind man who deserved her most precious possession. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the modest terraced house on Elm Street in Blackpool, where 5-year-old Emma Thompson was already wide awake at 6:30. Her tiny hands pressed against the bedroom window as she watched the early workers heading to the famous tower and pier. Today was different from all other days, though Emma couldn't quite understand why the entire neighborhood seemed to buzz with an electric excitement that made even the seagulls sound more cheerful. Her mother, Sarah Thompson, had been preparing for this day for weeks. As a single mother working 2 jobs to make ends meet, Sarah rarely had time for grand events. But when news spread through their working-class community that Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, would be visiting Blackpool to open the new community center, something stirred in her heart. Perhaps it was the memory of her own childhood fascination with fairy tales, or maybe it was the desperate hope that her daughter might experience something magical in a life that had been filled with more struggles than wonders. Emma had spent the previous evening carefully selecting her outfit. Her small wardrobe contained mostly hand-me-downs from neighbors and charity shop finds, but to her, the pale blue dress with tiny flowers that Sarah had bought for her 4th birthday was fit for a princess. She had matched it with white tights that had a small hole near the ankle, which Sarah had carefully mended with invisible thread, and her only pair of good shoes, black patent leather that reflected the morning light like tiny mirrors. But the most important item of Emma's ensemble wasn't clothing at all. Sitting proudly on her dresser was a plastic tiara she had won at the summer fair 3 months earlier. It was made of cheap silver plastic with colorful rhinestones that caught the light in rainbow patterns. Some of the stones had already fallen off, leaving small circular marks where they once sparkled, but to Emma, it remained the most beautiful crown in the world. She had worn it every day since winning it, much to her mother's gentle protests about saving it for special occasions. As Sarah prepared a simple breakfast of toast and jam, she watched her daughter through the kitchen doorway, practicing curtsies in front of the hallway mirror. Emma's concentration was absolute, her little tongue poking out slightly as she focused on bending her knees just right, the way she had seen princesses do in her favorite animated movies. The sight brought tears to Sarah's eyes, not just from the sweetness of the moment, but from a knowledge that they would be standing behind barriers with hundreds of others, likely catching only a glimpse of the royal visitor from a distance. The community center where Prince William would conduct the official opening was a 10-minute walk from their home. Sarah had planned to arrive early, knowing that the best viewing spots would be claimed quickly by families who, like them, saw this visit as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She packed a small bag with water bottles, snacks, and a folding stool for Emma to stand on, hoping it might give her daughter a better view over the crowd. Emma's excitement was infectious as they prepared to leave. She had been asking questions for days about what princes were like, whether they really lived in castles, and if they wore crowns all the time. Sarah had done her best to explain, drawing on half-remembered stories from her own childhood and whatever she could find in library books about the royal family. But Emma's fascination went beyond mere curiosity. In her young mind, princes and princesses represented everything good and magical in the world, figures who helped people and made everyone happy. The walk to the community center revealed a transformed neighborhood. Union Jack bunting stretched between lampposts, hanging in cheerful triangles that fluttered in the morning breeze. Local shop owners had decorated their windows with royal memorabilia, and Many had put up hand-painted signs welcoming Prince William to Blackpool. The excitement was palpable, with neighbors who rarely spoke now chatting animatedly about the upcoming visit, sharing stories of previous royal encounters, and debating the best spots to stand for photographs. Emma skipped alongside her mother, occasionally stopping to admire the decorations or wave at other families heading in the same direction. Her plastic crown caught the attention of several passers-by, who smiled and commented on how lovely she looked. Each compliment made Emma stand a little straighter, her confidence growing with every step. She clutched a small bouquet of flowers they had picked from their tiny back garden, daisies and dandelions arranged with the careful attention only a child could provide. When they arrived at the community center, the scene was already bustling with activity. Security personnel moved efficiently around the perimeter, checking barriers and communicating through earpieces. Media crews were setting up cameras and testing equipment, their professional demeanor contrasting sharply with the casual excitement of the gathering crowd. Police officers on horseback patrolled the area, their mounts drawing almost as much attention from children as the upcoming royal visit. Sarah found a spot near the front of the barriers, close enough to the main entrance that Emma would have a clear view when Prince William arrived. The little girl immediately climbed onto her stool and began pointing out everything she could see, from the red carpet being rolled out to the officials checking their watches nervously. Her commentary was a constant stream of observations and questions that made the waiting families around them smile and engage in conversation. As the crowd grew larger, Emma struck up friendships with other children who had come to see the prince. They compared their outfits, shared snacks, and created games to pass the time. But throughout all the interactions, Emma kept one hand protectively on her plastic crown, as if ensuring it remained safely in place for the important moment ahead. The atmosphere was festive rather than formal, with local musicians playing traditional songs and community volunteers distributing small flags for children to wave. Street vendors sold commemorative items and snacks, their calls adding to the cheerful noise that filled the air. Despite the security presence and official nature of the event, there was something wonderfully organic about the celebration, as if the entire community had come together for a neighborhood party rather than a formal royal engagement. Emma's anticipation grew with each passing hour, but she never showed signs of restlessness or boredom. Instead, she seemed to absorb every detail of the experience, from the way the officials spoke into their radios to the careful positioning of the red carpet. Her questions revealed a sharp intelligence and genuine curiosity about the world around her, making even the waiting time feel purposeful and engaging. Sarah watched her daughter with a mixture of pride and protective love, occasionally checking to ensure Emma's crown remained secure and her dress stayed clean. She had brought a small brush to touch up Emma's hair if needed, and tissues to clean any smudges from her excited exploring. But more than anything, she found herself hoping that whatever happened in the next few hours would live up to her daughter's enormous expectations. The morning progressed with increasing excitement as official cars began arriving, each one triggering speculation from the crowd about whether Prince William had arrived. Emma stood on her toes, straining to see over the barriers, her small hand shading her eyes as she searched for any sign of the royal visitor. Her determination and focus were absolute, as if she could will the prince to appear through sheer concentration and hope. Local officials moved among the crowd, ensuring everyone was comfortable and safe, while photographers positioned themselves strategically to capture the best angles of the upcoming ceremony. The sense of anticipation was building toward something special, something that would transform an ordinary Tuesday in Blackpool into a memory that would last forever for everyone present, especially one little girl in a plastic crown who believed completely in the magic of the moment that was about to unfold. The distant sound of motorcycle engines created a ripple of excitement through the crowd that spread like waves across water. Children pressed against the barriers, adults stood on tiptoes, and mobile phones emerged from pockets as everyone prepared to capture the moment they had been waiting for. Emma felt her heart beating faster as the sound grew louder, and she adjusted her plastic crown carefully, making sure it sat perfectly on her small head. The police motorcycles appeared first, their riders professional and focused as they cleared the path ahead. Following closely behind was a sleek black car with tinted windows that reflected the morning sun like a moving mirror. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, voices calling out welcomes, and expressions of excitement that created a wall of sound that seemed to lift everyone's spirits even higher. As the car slowed to a stop near the red carpet, Emma found herself holding her breath. She had imagined this moment countless times over the past few weeks, but the reality felt both more exciting and more overwhelming than her young mind had anticipated. The official ceremony she had seen on television always seemed distant and formal, but being here in person made everything feel immediate and real. The car door opened, and Prince William stepped out, immediately greeted by local officials and dignitaries who had been waiting to welcome him. Even from a distance, Emma could see that he was taller than she had expected, and he was smiling in a way that seemed genuine rather than the practiced expression she had seen in photographs. He wore a navy blue suit with a crisp white shirt and blue tie, looking every inch the prince from her storybooks while still appearing approachable and kind. The formal greeting ceremony proceeded exactly as planned, with introductions, brief speeches, and the presentation of official gifts from the local community. Prince William listened attentively to each speaker, asked thoughtful questions about the new community center, and showed genuine interest in the programs that would be offered to local families. His engagement was clearly authentic, not merely polite protocol, and the crowd responded to his warmth with increasing enthusiasm. Emma watched every moment with intense concentration, occasionally asking her mother quiet questions about what was happening or why certain people were speaking. Sarah did her best to explain the formal aspects of the visit while keeping her own emotions in check. Seeing her daughter's wonder and excitement reminded her of her own childhood dreams and the magic that seemed to exist in the world when viewed through young eyes. After the official opening ceremony concluded, Prince William began what royal handlers call a walkabout, moving along the barriers to meet members of the public who had gathered to see him. This was the moment everyone had been hoping for, the chance for brief, personal interactions that would create lasting memories for the fortunate few who caught his attention. The crowd surged forward slightly as Prince William approached, but the barriers and security personnel ensured everything remained safe and orderly. Emma found herself directly in his path as he worked his way along the line of well-wishers, accepting flowers, shaking hands, and engaging in brief conversations that left each person with a story they would treasure forever. As he drew closer, Emma could feel her excitement building to an almost overwhelming level. Her mother helped steady her on the small stool, ensuring she had the best possible view while remaining safely behind the barrier. The plastic crown on Emma's head caught the light as she moved, creating small rainbow reflections that danced across her face and drew appreciative smiles from nearby adults who were charmed by her obvious excitement. Prince William was now only a few people away, accepting a bouquet from an elderly woman and spending a moment chatting with a young boy who had brought a hand-drawn picture. Emma watched his interactions carefully, noting how he bent down to the boy's level and gave him his complete attention, making their brief conversation feel important and meaningful rather than rushed or perfunctory. When Prince William finally reached Emma's section of the barrier, their eyes met across the short distance that separated them. Emma felt a moment of sudden shyness, her earlier confidence momentarily replaced by the overwhelming reality of being face to face with a real prince. But his smile was so warm and encouraging that her nervousness quickly melted away, replaced by the same excitement that had carried her through the morning. Prince William stepped closer to the barrier, and Emma could see that his eyes were kind and genuinely interested in meeting her. He noticed her plastic crown immediately, and his smile grew even wider as he took in her careful outfit and obvious excitement. Rather than simply offering a quick greeting and moving on, he paused, sensing that this little girl had something special about their encounter. Emma suddenly remembered the flower she had been holding, the carefully arranged bouquet of daisies and dandelions from their small garden. She thrust them toward Prince William with both hands, her voice clear and proud as she announced that she had picked them herself that morning. He accepted the flowers with genuine appreciation, commenting on how beautiful they were and asking if she had a garden at home. The conversation that followed was brief, but magical. Prince William asked Emma about her crown, complimenting how lovely she looked and wondering if she felt like a real princess wearing it. Emma's response was immediate and heartfelt. She explained that she had won the crown at the fair and that she wore it every day because it made her feel special and happy. Then something extraordinary happened, something that no one, including the royal protection officers and official photographers, had anticipated. Emma carefully removed her plastic crown from her head, holding it out toward Prince William with both small hands. Her voice was clear and determined as she announced that she wanted him to have it, because princes should have crowns, and this was her very best one. The gesture created a moment of profound silence among the immediate crowd. Here was a 5-year-old child offering her most treasured possession to someone she had just met, not because she expected anything in return, but simply because she believed it was the right thing to do. The innocence and generosity of the act were so pure and unexpected that it transcended all the formal protocols and carefully planned aspects of the royal visit. Prince William's response revealed the depth of his character and his understanding of what the moment meant. Rather than politely declining the gift or accepting it with a formal thank you, he recognized the magnitude of Emma's gesture and responded with equal sincerity. He bent down so that he was at her eye level, looking directly into her face as he spoke. His words were simple but profound. He told Emma that her crown was the most beautiful gift he had ever received and that he would treasure it always. But then he did something even more remarkable. He carefully placed the plastic crown on his own head, wearing it proudly despite the presence of cameras, officials, and the watching crowd. The sight of Prince William, future King of England, wearing a child's plastic crown with complete dignity and obvious pleasure, created a moment that would be remembered long after the official ceremonies were forgotten. The crowd erupted in applause and laughter, not mocking but celebrating the beautiful interaction they had just witnessed. Emma's reaction was pure joy. Her hands flew to her mouth in surprise and delight, her eyes wide with wonder that her gift had been received with such appreciation. She began bouncing on her toes with excitement, clapping her hands as she watched Prince William model her crown for the crowd around them. Prince William spent several more minutes talking with Emma, asking about her family, her school, and her other interests. He discovered that she loved reading stories about princesses and that she helped her mother in their small garden every weekend. Their conversation flowed naturally, without any of the awkwardness that might have been expected between a royal and a 5-year-old child. The interaction concluded with Prince William carefully removing the crown and handing it back to Emma, explaining that while he was honored by her gift, the crown belonged with her because she was the most wonderful princess he had ever met. Emma accepted it back with glowing pride, but the connection they had shared would remain with both of them long after the moment ended. As Prince William continued his walkabout, moving on to greet other members of the crowd, Emma remained on her stool, watching him with absolute amazement. She waved enthusiastically every time he looked back in her direction, and he made sure to acknowledge her with smiles and waves of his own, maintaining their special connection even as he fulfilled his official duties with other well-wishers. The moment Prince William moved away from their section of the barrier, Emma turned to her mother with eyes shining brighter than the plastic rhinestones on her crown. The words tumbled out of her in an excited rush as she tried to explain everything that had just happened, though her 5-year-old vocabulary seemed inadequate to capture the magnitude of what she had experienced. Sarah found herself wiping away tears she hadn't realized were forming, moved not just by her daughter's joy, but by the genuine kindness Prince William had shown. Around them, Other families were discussing what they had witnessed, with many pointing their cameras and phones in Emma's direction. The little girl had become something of a celebrity within the crowd, with strangers approaching to compliment her on her interaction with the prince and to hear her excited retelling of their conversation. Emma basked in the attention while remaining completely unaware of how extraordinary her gift-giving had appeared to the adults watching. The official royal visit continued according to schedule, but the atmosphere had shifted subtly. The formal protocols remained in place, but there was now an underlying warmth that seemed to affect everyone present. Prince William's willingness to wear Emma's crown had demonstrated something important about his character, and the crowd responded with increased affection and appreciation for their royal visitor. Local news crews who had been covering the event began seeking out Emma and her mother, requesting interviews about the crown presentation. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the sudden attention, unsure how to handle the media interest while protecting her daughter's natural innocence. She agreed to brief conversations, but insisted that Emma should be allowed to simply enjoy the rest of the morning without pressure to perform for cameras. Emma herself seemed untroubled by the interviews, answering questions with the honest directness that only children possess. When asked why she had given her crown to Prince William, she explained matter-of-factly that princes needed crowns, and hers was very pretty, so it seemed like the obvious thing to do. Her logic was unassailable in its simplicity, yet it highlighted the pure generosity of spirit that had motivated her gesture. The royal protection officers had been watching the interactions carefully, and several approached Sarah to ensure that both mother and daughter were comfortable with the attention they were receiving. Their concern was genuine rather than merely professional, suggesting that Emma's gesture had touched even these experienced security personnel who had witnessed countless royal encounters throughout their careers. Prince William completed his walkabout and returned to the main ceremonial area for the final portions of his visit. Throughout the remaining speeches and presentations, he occasionally glanced toward the section where Emma was standing, offering her encouraging smiles that made her wave enthusiastically in response. Their connection had clearly made an impression on him that extended beyond polite protocol. As the official ceremonies concluded, the crowd began to disperse slowly, with many people reluctant to leave the scene of such a memorable event. Emma remained on her stool, watching until Prince William's car disappeared from view, her small hand waving continuously until the very last moment. Only then did she seem to accept that the magical encounter was truly over. The walk home provided Sarah with time to process what had happened and to begin understanding the significance of her daughter's spontaneous gesture. Neighbors who had seen the news coverage were already gathering in small groups, discussing the morning's events and expressing pride that someone from their community had created such a touching moment with a royal visitor. Emma's retelling of her meeting with Prince William became more elaborate with each neighbor they encountered, though the core truth remained consistent. She had given him her crown because she thought he needed it, and he had been the kindest prince she could have imagined. Her confidence had grown throughout the morning, and she now carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who had done something important and meaningful. Back at their small house, Sarah helped Emma carefully hang up her special outfit while listening to her daughter's detailed analysis of everything Prince William had said and done. Emma was particularly fascinated by how tall he had seemed and how his smile had made her feel brave enough to offer her most precious possession without fear or hesitation. The phone began ringing almost immediately as friends and relatives who had seen news coverage called to congratulate Emma and asked for first-hand accounts of the royal meeting. Emma delighted in retelling her story to each caller, adding new details with each version while maintaining her essential message that the prince had been wonderful and had truly appreciated her gift. Local newspapers sent photographers to capture follow-up images of Emma with her crown, and several national media outlets requested interviews about the heartwarming incident. Sarah found herself serving as both protector and facilitator, ensuring that Emma enjoyed the attention without becoming overwhelmed by the sudden fame that her generous gesture had created. The impact of Emma's gift extended far beyond their immediate community. Social media posts about the crown presentation began spreading rapidly, with people around the world sharing the images and video footage of Prince William wearing the plastic tiara. Comments poured in from strangers who were moved by the innocence of the gesture and the dignified way both Emma and the prince had handled the unexpected moment. News outlets began picking up the story, framing it as a heartwarming example of childhood innocence meeting royal grace. The photographs of Prince William wearing Emma's crown became instantly iconic, representing something pure and genuine in a world often characterized by cynicism and political division. The images transcended cultural and national boundaries, touching people who might otherwise have little interest in royal visits or ceremonial events. Emma seemed largely unaware of the broader impact her actions had created. For her, the morning had been exactly what she had hoped it would be, a chance to meet a real prince and share something special with him. The fact that their interaction had resonated with thousands of people around the world was beyond her understanding, though she enjoyed hearing that others thought her crown was as beautiful as she had always believed it to be. Sarah began receiving messages from strangers who had been inspired by Emma's generosity, sharing their own stories of childhood kindness and expressing gratitude for the reminder that simple gestures could create profound meaning. The overwhelming positivity of the responses helped Sarah realize that her daughter had inadvertently become a symbol of hope and innocence in a world that desperately needed both. The afternoon brought unexpected visitors as local officials and community leaders stopped by to personally congratulate Emma on her interaction with Prince William. Each visitor seemed genuinely moved by what they had witnessed, and several mentioned that the morning's events had reinforced their faith in the fundamental goodness of human nature. Emma received each visitor with the same open-hearted enthusiasm she had shown the prince, eager to share her story and show off the crown that had started everything. Her natural charm and unself-conscious confidence made each interaction memorable, leaving visitors with their own stories to tell about meeting the little girl who had captured hearts around the world. As evening approached, Sarah reflected on how dramatically their quiet life had changed in the space of a single morning. The modest terraced house that had witnessed Emma's careful preparations now felt like the center of a story that was still unfolding, with implications and meanings that extended far beyond anything either of them could have anticipated. Emma, exhausted from the excitement and attention of the day, finally agreed to put on her pajamas and prepare for bed. But she insisted on keeping her crown within sight on the bedside table, wanting to be able to see it first thing in the morning and remember every detail of her magical encounter with the prince who had treated her gift with such respect and appreciation. The day that had begun with a little girl's dream of meeting royalty had evolved into something far more significant, a demonstration that genuine human connection could transcend all barriers of status, protocol, and circumstance, creating moments of pure magic that would be remembered and treasured by everyone who witnessed them. The following morning brought a transformation that neither Emma nor her mother could have anticipated. Their quiet street, typically empty except for the occasional delivery van and neighbors heading to work, was now bustling with activity that seemed almost surreal. News vans lined the curb, their satellite dishes reaching toward the gray Blackpool sky like mechanical flowers seeking signal instead of sunlight. Sarah peered through the front curtains while Emma slept peacefully upstairs, still exhausted from the previous day's excitement. The sight of reporters setting up cameras and checking equipment outside their modest home felt overwhelming and intrusive, yet she understood that something remarkable had captured the public's imagination. The story of her daughter's crown gift had apparently resonated far beyond their local community. When Emma finally woke and saw the activity outside her bedroom window, her reaction was pure delight rather than concern. To her 5-year-old perspective, the presence of cameras and news crews seemed like a natural extension of the magic that had begun when she met Prince William. She pressed her nose against the glass, watching the preparations with the same intense curiosity she had shown while waiting for the royal arrival. The first interview request came before they had finished breakfast, followed quickly by dozens more as national and international news outlets sought to speak with the little girl whose spontaneous generosity had touched hearts around the world. Sarah found herself in the unexpected position of media manager, carefully screening requests to ensure that Emma's experience remained positive and age-appropriate. The response to the Crown Gift story had exceeded all expectations. Social media platforms were flooded with shares, comments, and tributes to both Emma's kindness and Prince William's gracious response. The hashtag Crown for a Prince began trending globally, with users posting their own stories of childhood generosity and random acts of kindness that had been inspired by Emma's example. Major television networks competed for exclusive interviews, offering substantial fees that could have changed Sarah and Emma's financial situation dramatically. But Sarah remained focused on protecting her daughter's innocence and ensuring that any media appearances would be enjoyable experiences rather than obligations or performances. She insisted that Emma should never feel pressured to behave differently or say specific things for cameras. The first television interview was conducted in their small living room, with Emma sitting comfortably on the sofa beside her mother, wearing the same crown that had started everything. The interviewer, an experienced broadcaster accustomed to dealing with celebrities and politicians, found himself charmed by Emma's honest responses and obvious joy in retelling her royal encounter. When asked why she had given her crown to Prince William, Emma's answer was characteristically direct and logical. She explained that the prince had seemed nice, and that nice people deserve nice things, especially princes who probably had to work very hard at being royal. Her reasoning revealed a sophisticated understanding of kindness and reciprocity that impressed adults while remaining completely natural for a child her age. The interview revealed details about Emma's life that made her gesture even more meaningful to viewers. Sarah spoke honestly about their financial struggles as a single-parent household, explaining how Emma's crown had been her most treasured possession despite its minimal monetary value. The fact that Emma had given away something so precious to her, without hesitation or expectation of reward, underscored the genuine nature of her generosity. Emma's personality shone through every moment of the interview. She was articulate without being precocious, confident without being boastful, and absolutely authentic in her excitement about meeting Prince William. Her natural charm and obvious happiness made viewers feel as though they were watching their own child or grandchild share a wonderful experience. The response to the television interview was immediate and overwhelming. The network's phone lines were flooded with calls from viewers expressing their admiration for Emma and sharing how the story had inspired them to perform their own acts of kindness. Social media posts multiplied exponentially, with people around the world expressing how Emma's simple gesture had restored their faith in human goodness. International news outlets began picking up the story, translating interviews into multiple languages and sharing the footage across global networks. The image of Prince William wearing Emma's plastic crown became one of the most shared photographs of the year, appearing on newspaper front pages and magazine covers in dozens of countries around the world. Emma remained largely oblivious to the global scale of the response her actions had generated. For her, the most exciting development was the stack of letters and cards that began arriving daily from children around the world who wanted to share their own stories and drawings. Sarah read each letter aloud, and Emma insisted on responding to as many as possible, dictating thank you messages and drawing pictures to send back. The letters revealed the profound impact Emma's story had created. Children wrote about being inspired to share their toys with siblings, give flowers to elderly neighbors, or help classmates who were being bullied. Parents described how their families had discussed Emma's example and implemented their own kindness challenges. Teachers reported using the Crown Gift story as a foundation for lessons about empathy, generosity, and treating others with respect. Local businesses in Blackpool began capitalizing on the positive attention the story had brought to their community. Gift shops started selling replica crowns, with proceeds going to local children's charities. Restaurants created special menus featuring Emma's crown cake and Prince William's garden salad. The tourism board incorporated the story into promotional materials, highlighting Blackpool as a place where magical moments could happen. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from Kensington Palace itself. A formal letter arrived bearing the royal seal, personally thanking Emma for her kindness and generous spirit. The letter, written in language appropriate for a 5-year-old, expressed Prince William's genuine appreciation for her gift and his hope that she would continue spreading joy wherever she went. Accompanying the letter was a signed photograph of Prince William wearing Emma's crown, along with a small gift. Books about princesses and kind deeds, personally selected for a little girl who had demonstrated that real nobility came from actions rather than titles. Emma treasured both items, carefully placing them next to her crown in the special memory box Sarah helped her create. The story continued to evolve as Emma and Sarah navigated their unexpected fame. Invitations arrived for television appearances, charity events, and public speaking engagements. While some opportunities were declined to protect Emma's normal childhood routine, others were accepted when they aligned with positive messages about kindness and community service. Emma's school embraced her sudden celebrity status by organizing a kindness week, where students were encouraged to perform their own generous acts. Emma visited classrooms to share her story and answer questions, inspiring other children to think about how they could make differences in their communities. Her natural ability to connect with other children made these visits successful and meaningful for everyone involved. The financial offers continued to arrive, including book deals, endorsement opportunities, and appearance fees that could have provided long-term security for Emma and her mother. Sarah remained cautious about commercializing her daughter's innocence, accepting only opportunities that felt authentic and educational rather than exploitative. The crown itself became almost a sacred object within their household. Emma continued wearing it regularly, but she also understood that it had become part of something larger than her personal enjoyment. She began referring to it as her sharing crown, explaining to visitors that it had taught her the importance of giving away the things you love to people who need them. As weeks passed, the initial media frenzy settled into a more manageable level of ongoing interest. Emma returned to her normal routines of school, play, and helping in the garden, but with a new confidence and understanding of her ability to impact others through simple acts of kindness. The experience had matured her in subtle ways while preserving the innocence and generosity that had created the magical moment in the first place. The lasting impact of Emma's crown gift extended far beyond the immediate media attention. Charitable organizations reported increases in donations and volunteer applications from people inspired by her example. Schools implemented kindness curricula based on her story. Families around the world adopted crown-giving traditions where children were encouraged to share their most precious possessions with others who might appreciate them. Emma's story had become a modern fairy tale, proving that magic still existed in the world and that sometimes the most powerful gestures came from the smallest hands and the purest hearts. 6 months after that magical morning in Blackpool, Emma Thompson's life had settled into a new rhythm that balanced ordinary childhood experiences with the extraordinary legacy of her crown gift. The media attention had gradually diminished to a manageable level, but the impact of her gesture continued to ripple outward in ways that surprised everyone who had witnessed the original moment. The small terraced house on Elm Street had been transformed in subtle but meaningful ways. The living room walls now displayed framed photographs from the royal visit, letters from children around the world, and certificates of appreciation from various charitable organizations. But the most prominent position was reserved for Emma's original plastic crown, which sat in a place of honor on the mantelpiece, surrounded by the growing collection of gifts and mementos that marked her unexpected journey into the public eye. Emma herself had grown and changed in the months following her royal encounter, though she remained fundamentally the same generous, curious child who had spontaneously offered her most precious possession to a prince. Her confidence had blossomed through her interactions with media, visitors, and fellow children who sought to understand the motivation behind her famous gesture. She spoke more easily to adults, answered questions with thoughtful consideration, and had developed an impressive vocabulary for discussing kindness, sharing, and community service. School had become a more complex experience for Emma as her classmates and teachers adjusted to having a celebrity among them. Initially, some children treated her differently, either with excessive deference or jealous resentment. But Emma's natural friendliness and her teachers' skillful management helped normalize the situation. She began using her experiences to encourage classroom discussions about kindness and to lead by example in sharing toys, helping struggling students, and including children who seemed lonely or left out. The educational opportunities that had emerged from Emma's story proved to be among the most valuable long-term benefits of her sudden fame. She had been invited to visit other schools to share her story, participate in anti-bullying campaigns, and serve as a young ambassador for various children's charities. Each appearance reinforced the lesson she had learned about the power of small gestures to create large impacts. Sarah had also grown into her unexpected role as the mother of a famous child. She had learned to navigate media requests, evaluate opportunities for authenticity and appropriateness, and protect Emma's childhood while allowing her to benefit from the positive aspects of her celebrity. The experience had strengthened their relationship as they worked together to understand and respond to the continuing interest in Emma's story. The financial benefits of Emma's fame had been carefully managed to ensure long-term security rather than immediate gratification. Sarah had established an educational fund that would support Emma's future schooling and any career aspirations she might develop. Some money had been donated to local charities, following Emma's expressed wish to help other children who might not have as much as she did. The crown itself had taken on almost mythical significance within their community and beyond. Visitors often asked to see it, touch it, or photograph it, treating the simple plastic tiara as though it were a precious relic. Emma enjoyed showing off her famous crown while explaining its history, but she never forgot that its true value lay not in its current celebrity status, but in the love and joy it represented. Kensington Palace had maintained occasional contact with the Thompson family, sending holiday cards and updates about Prince William's activities that might interest Emma. These communications reinforced the genuine connection that had been established during their brief but meaningful encounter, suggesting that the impact of Emma's gift had been as lasting for the royal family as it had been for her own. The global response to Emma's story had evolved into organized kindness movements that used her crown gift as inspiration for community service projects. Schools around the world had adopted Crown Days when students were encouraged to perform acts of generosity for classmates, teachers, and community members. Businesses had created Crown Awards to recognize employees who went above and beyond in helping others. Charitable organizations had established Crown grants to fund small-scale kindness projects in local communities. Emma's understanding of her role in these movements was sophisticated for a 6-year-old, but remained grounded in the simple principles that had motivated her original gesture. When asked about being an inspiration to others, she consistently emphasized that everyone already had the ability to be kind, and that her crown gift had simply reminded people of something they already knew how to do. The anniversary of the royal visit approached with local and media interest in commemorating the moment that had captured so many hearts. The community center that Prince William had opened was thriving, and plans were made for a celebration that would honor both the original royal visit and the ongoing legacy of kindness that Emma's gesture had inspired. Emma was invited to participate in the anniversary ceremony, and she spent weeks preparing for what felt like returning to the scene of her greatest adventure. She carefully selected another special outfit, though this time she chose to wear a different crown, explaining that her original crown had done its job and deserved a rest while other crowns had their chances to create magic. The anniversary event brought together many of the same people who had witnessed the original crown presentation, plus hundreds more who had been inspired by the story in the months that followed. Emma was treated as an honored guest rather than a curiosity, with speakers acknowledging how her spontaneous generosity had enriched their community and demonstrated the power of children to teach important lessons to adults. During the ceremony, Emma was asked to speak about her experiences and what she had learned from her year of unexpected fame. Her brief remarks focused on the importance of sharing, the joy that comes from making others happy, and her hope that everyone would remember to look for opportunities to be kind in their daily lives. Her words were simple but profound, delivered with a sincerity that had made her original gesture so powerful. The lasting impact of the crown gift story extended far beyond the anniversary celebration. Educational materials based on Emma's experience were being used in schools around the world to teach lessons about empathy, generosity, and social responsibility. Researchers have begun studying the story as an example of how individual acts of kindness could create widespread social benefits through media amplification and community response. Emma's future remained bright with possibilities that had been opened by her moment of spontaneous generosity. Scholarship opportunities had been offered for her education, and several organizations had expressed interest in continuing to work with her as she grew older. But perhaps most importantly, she had learned that her actions could make a real difference in the world, a lesson that would guide her choices and aspirations for years to come. The plastic crown continued to sit proudly on the mantelpiece, no longer just a child's toy, but a symbol of the transformative power of kindness. Visitors often commented that it seemed to sparkle more brightly than its simple rhinestones should allow, as though it had been permanently enhanced by the magic of the moment it had created. As Emma settled into bed each night, she could see her famous crown from her pillow, and she often smiled as she remembered the tall, kind prince who had worn it so graciously and had helped her understand that the smallest gestures could create the biggest differences. Her dreams were filled with crowns and kindness, princes and possibilities, and the unshakable knowledge that magic was always possible when hearts were open and hands were generous. The story that had begun with one little girl's desire to meet a prince had evolved into something far greater, a testament to the enduring power of innocence, generosity, and human connection. Emma's crown had given the world a gift much more valuable than any precious jewels, a reminder that true nobility lay not in titles or treasures, but in the courage to share what we love most with those who need it most. The legacy of the little crown would continue to inspire acts of kindness for generations to come, proving that sometimes the smallest hands can indeed change the world, one generous gesture at a time. Emma Thompson had learned that being a real princess had nothing to do with wearing a crown and everything to do with the size of your heart and your willingness to share its contents with others who cross your path.